But the next thing I remember is I'm floating above my body. And Josh was there, and he's like, come and see. So we floated down about this height to the ceiling, and we went to the bedroom where the kids were at, and there was a huge white line around it. And when I got close enough, it was a messenger, it was an angel at the door. When I went past the angel at the door, there was 2 or 3 more men or beings with white robes on the floor playing with the kids' cars and blocks and what the kids were doing. Oh, well, never mind. Let's go. I'm done. They're in good hands. I'm out of here. So we floated and drifted above the house. And it was so neat because of wherever I put my perception, wherever I focused my view at, I could see. If I looked at the house, I was in the room with the kids. If I shifted back to where I was at, spirit body, I was in the clouds with Joshua. I could see hundreds of miles away, like it was just right here, 5 feet away.
I'm here with Jill Hampton James. Hi, Jill. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm really excited to spend this time with you today.
Hi, I am too. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Jill had a near-death experience back in 1980, what was it? 1983. And then she also had a series of events after that that has changed her life dramatically. And she's here to tell us all about it. Jill, can you take me back to 1983? What happened when you died?
Well, in order to understand what happened when I died, the people involved, the spirits involved, I'd like to go back a little further to my birth because that will help tie everything together, make things make more sense. I remember being born. I remember conversations before I was born in choosing my family. And I chose one lady, one family, a professor and an accountant, very stable upper middle class family. They had 2 older boys. This was a menopause baby, and they were very excited when they found out it was a girl. And then they said to me, they said, I was with Jesus and Joshua, my other half, my soulmate, and the Archangel Gabriel. And they said, well, we have this situation come up. This other family who has for generations um, has had a traumatic history, and we need someone to step in and break the chains. After some conversations with the guys, knowing it was going to be very difficult life path, but I was best qualified for it for everybody else that was available, I agreed to change parents. So my first mother miscarried me at 6 months, and then my other mother, my actual mother, became pregnant with me. So Joshua, Jesus, and Gabriel, Archangel Gabriel, they all agreed they would stay by my side throughout this life and give me as much assistance as I needed to complete my mission. Now, my near-death experience happened after my childhood. I was in my early 20s, and I didn't know, but I had a congenital problem with one of my kidneys. It was much smaller than the regular kidney, and it worked fine. It was just prone to infections and kidney, but I hadn't had any problem with it up until this point in time. So one early morning, I was living with my grandparents and my 2 young children. They were 3 and 2 years old. One was potty trained, and the other one was still in diapers. And so I suddenly, after Grandma and Grandpa left for work, I suddenly felt very ill. Couldn't put my finger on it, but I felt ill all over. And I started calling out, but there had been a heavy snowfall the night before, and nobody could get to the side of the mountain where I was sitting at, and nobody was home. And I'm like laying down on the couch, I'm in the fetal position, and I'm saying to myself, I said, this is not a good day to die. I can't die today. These kids need breakfast. He's gonna need diapers, they need supervision. There's a big wood stove in the middle of this living room, and I need to be able to keep them from bumping into that and burning themselves. I can't die today. I'm sorry. This has been rescheduled. Like I have anything to say about that matter. And then I don't remember anything else. I was in so much pain. But the next thing I remember is I'm floating above my body. And Josh was there, and he's like, come and see. So we floated down about this height to the ceiling, and we went to the bedroom where the kids were at. and there was a huge white light around it. And when I got close enough, it was a messenger, it was an angel at the door. When I went past the angel at the door, there was 2 or 3 more men or beings with white robes on the floor playing with the kids' cars and blocks and what the kids were doing. Oh, well, never mind. Let's go. I'm done. They're in good hands. I'm out of here. So we floated and drifted above the house. And it was so neat because of wherever I put my perception, wherever I focused my view at, I could see. If I looked at the house, I was in the room with the kids. If I shifted back to where I was at, spirit body it was at, I was in the clouds with Joshua. I could see hundreds of miles away, like it was just right here, 5 feet away. So that was kind of interesting. Then I noticed the cord coming from my abdomen going back down to the house, into the house. And Joshua explained that was my silver cord, which I learned a lot more about this later. But he did tell me it was my silver cord. As long as it wasn't broken, I would go back to my body later when I was ready. And I was like, well, that's good to know. And this, while we're on that bungee cord looking thing, what it is, it's like a bungee cord, and it's like all kinds of filaments wrapped around and bundled together. Okay. And later I learned that all the chakra in our body, and we have hundreds, all these are tied into that silver cord. They each have a cord of their own connecting to the main cord, which is the silver cord. And as long as those are all connected, or as long as any of them are connected, the spirit doesn't have a way to leave the body. One of the things I now do is I will go in when someone is passing, and I will make sure all the cords are cut, and that's retained so they don't get left behind. They don't have a part of them that's looking back over their shoulder. So anyway, so I went out of body with Joshua, and I don't remember anything after that until they came home from work 8 hours later, found me in a fetal position. They thought I was dead then. I was merely in a coma. But they almost said that the house was ice cold. And she said that the stove had gone out, and her first thought was the kids. What are the kids doing? And she went to the bedroom because she couldn't see signs of them. There was no crumbs, no mess, no crying, no screaming. It was just quiet. All the clocks had stopped. The time had stopped from the time I laid down. Every clock in the house, electric and battery, stopped at the time I laid down and left my body. So she went in and found the kids right where I left them, sitting on the floor playing with these angels. They didn't see the angels. They saw the kids just right where I left them, like time had stopped. Like she had gone out to get her purse and came back in the house. And that was really powerful because they asked the kids, and I found this out later, but they asked the kids, what did you do when mommy laid down? What was you doing when mom was sleeping? We play with angels. Well, duh, they're like, we play with the angel. And they saw the angels around them up until grade school. They always said goodnight to the angels. They said, Mom, don't worry, we're with the angels. When they would go to a friend's house for a sleepover, they knew the way they were guided and guarded. And I never worried about them, ever. I mean, there's always reason to worry for your kids, but I knew they were always divinely cared for. So that was a blessing. All right, back to my experience. They got me to the hospital. I remember coming to in the car because it was a bumpy ride down the hill. That was very painful when I got back in my body, so I left again. The next time I came to, I woke up. I was in a utility closet, like the janitor's closet, mops and buckets and cleaning supplies. And I thought, surely I've died and gone to hell, and now I gotta clean somebody's bathroom the rest of my eternity. That's my punishment because I'm not a better housekeeper. So Jesus is standing there and he says, no, you're not in hell, you're still on earth. I'm like, I am? Well, I hurt. He says, I know, what can I do? You're the good Lord. You know all things. You're the Son of God. You know what to do. Just do it. And he's like, no, you have to ask. I said, well, get rid of the pain. And he did. He put his hand on my back. The base of his palm was at the bottom of my spine, and the tip of his fingers were at the very top of my spine. And from his palm emanated a golden light, like a thick honey golden light. And it went throughout from that kidney all the way out and around to my stomach. And it turns out I was in a uremic coma, and I had kidney stones blacked up from my kidney all the way through my system into my bladder. They didn't even give me a number. They said that they didn't even try to count them. They just wanted to get them dissolved. So I'm like, okay, so that's what caused the whole situation. And I learned a valuable lesson on that situation because the pain wasn't the problem. The pain was the messenger that there was a problem. If I had asked to be healed, it would have saved me countless hours of pain and problems. You see what I mean? I asked for the pain to be gone, which is a symptom, not the problem. I learned that. And I promise you, from that day to this, I had them, they finally took the kidney out 4 or 5 years ago from another problem. There was a stone in it and a tumor on it. And I said, I'm done with it. I've been nursing it along all these years. It's fine. You can go. And they took it out. But up until then, I never had pain from kidney stones or kidney infections. I never had any kind of symptomatic issue that I would know I was sick. I started running 105-degree temperature. So that was never really a good thing. I had to be really more conscious of my body and how I was processing dairy foods. That was one of the reasons why I would get stones was dairy foods, too much ice cream and cheese. So just tell all my dirty secrets. But so I kept coming back in and out of the hospital with Joshua and Gabriel, who had sent his angels to watch over my children. And they kept trying to talk me back into my body. And I kept saying, nah, let's do it next week. This is much better. I like it over here better. But they said, well, your kids need you. I said, they got the angels and grandma, they're fine. It took them a couple weeks to get me back. And I don't remember. I don't have in their death where I would had a tunnel vision or where I had uh, the white light and family all waiting in loving arms. It wasn't like that. But here's what I do know. I came back changed and altered completely. It changed how I see the world. It changed how I believe in myself. It changed my fundamental perceptions of how things work. I came back different, and that's really a hallmark of in their death, not the typical, as you would say. I was in a tunnel. I saw my family. Those things have explanations, and they're valid experiences, but they're not the only experience you can have. If you come back from a serious illness with a profound alteration in your thinking and your perceptions and your beliefs, you have been touched in a very deep, profound way. You've had an near-death experience when you can't remember where you've been, what you've been doing. It doesn't really change that. You know what I'm saying? So that happened. I finally did come back in my body. There was still a lot of infection, sepsis. It was about 3 weeks before I left the hospital. But it changed me. It changed my children. We were never the same after that. We always knew the angels would take care of them. Back in the 80s, especially in the 80s, kids were going to the bus stop and being picked up by strangers. There was a lot of that going on in the 80s for some reason. And I never worried. I knew if they touched my child, Gabrielle would take care of him. Just like he takes care of me, he takes care of my kids. And I was just very grateful. I've been very grateful to the guys for all my life for sticking by me and helping me through the worst times. I haven't been healthy. I've had issues. I had eczema from head to toe, nearly killed me twice from infections. I don't even have it to this day. Okay. They guided me through what I needed to know, to the right teachers and the right tools to help me clear and heal myself of many things, of cancers and the eczema. I have strokes. I shouldn't even be walking and talking from the size of my strokes, but I'm learning to connect to my body and to listen to my body. And to this day, that little kidney that got taken out still twinges. Still twinges. I have phantom pains when I'm doing too much dairy. It still lets me know. And even though the two kidneys work simultaneously, they're not technically connected in our bodies physically. The minute the little kidney was taken out, my other kidney ramped up production about fourfold. It was like the little kidney was dragging it down. So putting it off didn't do my body any favors, is all I'm saying. That there is a spiritual connection between all of our organs and body parts, and they all work in harmony together and on a level we don't see and don't understand. So that was my near death. Changed me forever. And I learned, I looked up, I learned a lot. It propelled me to learn a lot more about the silver cord. It's written about in Ecclesiastes. And it was really kind of neat to see it and understand it and learn how to work with that aspect to help other people cross over that are making the crossing. And I tell you, having remembered my mom giving birth to me, not an experience I ever want to see again. That was much more painful than dying. Once I laid down, closed my eyes, it was done. I was gone. I was good. I was golden. But being born, I still have claustrophobia from the birth canal. That was a very painful experience to go through. And being such a helpless infant is very difficult when you're used to being a powerful being of light and love. So that was my near death. I've had a couple of them since. Mostly though, none of them have been typical. When I had the strokes, they started back in 2000 after I had a neck surgery done. And I would lay in the hospital bed. I'm kind of feisty. I don't know if you can tell that, but when the doctors told my kids, my grown kids, that I was not going to be able to walk or talk, and they were going to have to find me a nursing home, they looked at each other and they said, we're not telling her that. You go tell her. She will find a way to chuck a bedpan at your head. And sure enough, they did an EEG on my brain. I think that's what it's called, EEG. And they said there's parts of her brain that work that shouldn't be working, and parts that aren't working that should be working. They said, yeah, you go in there and explain that to her too. But I was out of bed within 3 days of all my strokes, full blown strokes, can't move a thing but my lips. No matter how stroked out I get, I can still talk, which I think is kind of an amazing gift to have. You just can't shut me up. But I would lay there and I would feel my astral body within my physical body. And I just concentrated on my astral body, moving my toes. And kept moving my toes till my physical toes moved. I just moved my fingertips till my physical fingers moved. I could feel my inner body pushing out against my external body, my physical body. And it would just make things happen. Eventually, with enough persistence and concentration, I could get my body back up and moving. So that's been kind of a blessing because I knew I'm not my body. This is just a vehicle that they had the tire fell off and I gotta get it put back on. I can make it go again. I've done it before, I'll do it again. So that's there's been a lot of healing things like that. Because when I had the stroke, there was a moment when my heart stopped for a couple minutes, they said. I just remember not having any aggravation with my stroke. I get annoyed with them is what I get. And for a brief space, I felt peace, calm. And then I got my heart started back, but I don't remember being anywhere, going anywhere, or doing anything, which I suppose with my capabilities and my plethora of spiritual experiences, like it may be kind of odd, or maybe I just don't need that to know that I've been there, done that. Maybe people who have those remembrances of those experiences need to know that they've done something, they've been somewhere, and something's changed. They might need that confirmation, the validation for themselves.
Who were you before? Were you raised in a religious home or anything like that? And was that an influence on your experience at all?
Well, my dad and mom were Christians. The church they belonged to was Church of Christ, which don't allow makeup or instrumental music or holidays. Very strict. So they believe this is from the Bible teachings. Women are to be seen and not heard. However, being a spiritual being in a physical body and being very, very much aware of that, I lost a lot of my conscious connections during my grade school years. And I became a very angry soul and teenager from the experiences I was having. It was all part of the process of becoming who I was meant to be. So Dad was a minister of sorts. He would fill in for the ministers when they have vacation days and stuff. So I helped Dad write many a sermon. help them research it. I love to research. I love to read stuff, and I have questions. I have a whole lot of questions. And Dad answered the best I could, but half the time he's just like, Joe, where do you come up with these questions? I mean, I'm 10, 12, 13 years old, asking them why Paul was such a misogynist. You know, I didn't know that word, but I knew he was hateful to women. What's his problem with women? And Dad couldn't answer that because the Church of Christ is built on Paul's teachings, not anything Jesus taught. Jesus, whenever said keep a woman shut silent, he honored Mary Magdalene and the women who walked with him. They were his disciples. So I was just very much appalled at some of the teachings Dad was saying was this is the Bible, it says it, and this is how it is. So that was what that was. And it didn't fit me. It didn't belong to me. And I stood up many a time from 10 to 20 years old. I stood up in the middle of sermons on the pews and called the preacher out on some of his BS and told him that is not what it says in this book, chapter, and verse. Because I had read the Bible 16 times and I know book, chapter, and verse. And you're saying this, and this is where it says this. How do you get off saying this? You know, I questioned them and I called them out. So definitely a religious background, definitely a rebel. Just not something I could ever conform to. Because this experience transformed me. He put me back on my path. And I had another out of body where a friend of mine, she bottomed out. She was undiagnosed bipolar. And I went to her in spirit and screamed my head off till I had the dogs howling, and her mom came out and found us on the asphalt where she was in the driveway, called an ambulance and got her diagnosed and treated. And then they called me the next day and said, I don't know how you did it, but you saved her life, and we're forever grateful. You know, you're not tied to your body unless you choose to be. I learned things. You know, I learned things. I was told on a couple of different messages I was going to take care of people. I was going to help people. And I couldn't see it. I had no self-confidence, no feeling of self-worth, no value. I had a troubled childhood, and I was still healing myself from a lot of physical and emotional injuries. And it took about 10 years in my 30s is when I really started coming into my own. And I kept reading, I kept questioning, I kept asking. And it was it was in my 30s that I found a teacher to show me how to voice channel. Because my teachers would find me, and they people who were intuitively connected and open to spirit would find me and say, you can do this. Why aren't you doing this? I don't know what this is. You give me a word. Oh yeah, I've done that. Well, now let's learn how to do it on purpose. And I learned the voice channel. I learned everything I learned. Someone found me and said, you can do this. Reiki. Cost thousands of dollars to get a Reiki master's. A friend of mine I met doing ministry, teaching, training. She's like, you can do Reiki. You're already doing Reiki. I guess from drawing on it from other lifetimes. Okay. And I said, well, I don't know what that is. And here we go again. Here she explains it. And she gave me the attunements after I went through the books and we studied and talked. She gave me attunements. So now I'm a Reiki master doing the same thing I was doing, but now I have an accreditation or something so people can understand what it is I do. Because what I do is guided by spirit. And I don't know where I'm drawing from my information from, but because I'm not tied to this one lifetime, I have a huge well of experience to pull from, of knowledge and experience to pull from. And so I did the healing because I have healed myself. Now here's the thing, a difficult childhood and physical ailments are not a cakewalk. These are very traumatic situations that your body gets into because you're not listening to it and you're not healing it as you go. You'll let things compound. But the point is, anybody can heal anything in their body. I used to have cancer I've had cancer 4 times. I would, okay, Louise L. Hay, You Can Heal Your Life. I found that book in the 80s, and I started working with her principles of how emotions block and cause illness in our physical form. And so I went to therapy. I did group therapy and physical and personal one-on-one therapy. whatever it took to get to the bottom of what was ailing me to fix my body. And that's how I healed the eczema, the cancer, and everything else that's happened to me. I just kept going back into my body and saying, what is it you need now? It's like I've been put together with spare parts. Now, what do we need to get from the dealership? What do we need from now? So that's how I went to, I learned to heal by practicing on me. And it gives you more compassion when you have hard times. It gives you more compassion for what other people are going through. They don't realize they're doing it to themselves, that they can change things if they would. Some people get addicted to the drama that their pain causes. I remember when people would call me, my mom especially, how's your skin? Because I was so inflamed, I couldn't move without help. And I said, my skin is not me. I am doing fine. My skin is another situation. I'm not my body. I'm not my skin. I'm not my headache or whatever else was going on. I didn't identify with the ailment. I saw my body as being a tool that I needed to adjust. That answer your question, or did I go too far?
No, I think it answered it well. And I love that how you're talking about you're not your body, you're not your skin, you're not your headache. So you know that like those things might be happening to you, but you don't associate you being those things. And I think that's a yeah, it's really important in order to heal, to realize that it's not who you are.
Right. You have to own the fact that you're a spiritual being of immense love and light and knowledge, that you never walk alone. You have guidance. Gabrielle has walked with me through many a dark alley, and one guy came running up trying to take my purse, late night downtown Tampa. And I knew he was behind me. Gabrielle always walked with me. I never was afraid. Never have I felt fear, my safety. And this guy came at me with a knife. He said, give me your purse. I said, son, you don't want to do that. You really need to step back. He says, give me your purse or I'm going to stab you. I said, no, you're not going to stab me. You're going to regret having done this. Then this is your last chance. You need to back up. And he came running at me and he hit Gabrielle and like he would hit a brick wall, knocked him off his feet, knocked the knife out of his hand. And he just went, he was crying, blabbering, and running away. You know, that's the kind of presence I have. But it's my knowing I have that presence and acknowledging it and giving gratitude for it that it makes it possible. I'm not unique. Everybody has angels around them, but they are limited in what they can do until we embrace them and make them part of our team. Until we ask for their help and give them permission to step in. When I was driving home, a friend of mine was having a bad night. And I was woken up, I was sound asleep to go to her. And it's 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. I'm driving home. And I get to a stoplight on an empty road. There's nobody out. It's a 6-lane highway I'm crossing into. And when the light changed, I hit the gas pedal. My car didn't move. It did not go anywhere. And I thought, no, great, my car's not working, but my foot was to the pedal, to the floor. And then this huge semi came running through the red light. Okay. As soon as he passed the red light, my car took off. Gabrielle stopped me from getting T-boned. That would have killed me. He was going too fast and he was running a red light. So I have many examples like that, being protected and guided. Joshua's sticking by me and helping me through some of the hard times. You know, when because back in the 80s, we had latchkey kids. We would let the kids come home alone until I could get there, and I had to drive an hour and a half home from work. So I was there half an hour and sometimes an hour after the kids got home, and they didn't like it after dark. And Joshua would be there, and they would see him and know he was there. He leave a crummy mess all over the counter because he liked peanut butter and banana sandwiches. Don't ask me how a dead man makes a peanut butter and banana sandwich, but he did it. And they were never afraid because they knew they were not alone. And one of the grandmothers that's on spirit was with the kids sometimes. So we had spirit babysitters when my kids were little. And I never had to worry about them. I got home as quickly and safely as I could. And I never let it happen more than I had to, but sometimes it couldn't be helped. And it was okay. Because we were not alone. We don't walk alone. Our life is divinely guided, guarded, and protected. I'm not unique. This is for everyone. But you have to acknowledge it and embrace it for it to happen. They are limited in what they can do unless we invite them in and ask them for their help. They can't just take over because we have free will. And our free will makes it impossible for them to just step in and do what they want to do. Even though they might know best, we have to be open to hearing them, to seeing them, to listening for them, watching for them. Okay? So, yes, this experience definitely triggered an avalanche of other experiences once I saw the limitless possibilities the spirits have and the responsibility we have to work with them as a team, not just give our lives over. I just do whatever I want. You'll keep me out of trouble. Well, if I'm drinking and driving, they may or may not be able to help me with that, because I've got myself into that mess. But as long as I'm doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons, they're there. They're there. I don't want to say you can just do willy-nilly anything you want to do with angels around, because there is limits to what they can do. They're going to let you learn the hard way. That's the way it's set up. But you do things for your own selfish reasons, or in pain and anger, or frustration, or whatever reason you have for doing silly things, they're going to let you reap the consequences of that, because that's the way it is set up to work. But as long as you're trying your best to do a good life, kind to others, kind to animals, good to Mother Earth, then you don't have to worry about things happening that out of your control. And you know that whatever happens, it may not be what you want to have happen, but you may not know what you want. You may not know what's best in this situation.
What did your experiences teach you about who we truly are?
That we are unlimited beings. We're not limited by time and space. That's what my experience with Paula taught me, that I can be where she needs me. Whoever needs me to be, I can be there in an instant. I'm not limited to this body. I'm not limited to time. I'm not limited to a place. I am unlimited. I am limitless. And I am able to go and do whatever I'm called to do at any point in time. That was one of the experiences that taught me. We sell ourselves short. We don't give ourselves enough credit for having the powers that we have. And I know there's a lot more to what I can do than what I'm able to do this life based on my memories of other lifetimes. But I think what I've accomplished so far in this life has been pretty phenomenal. And if people don't think they can do it, and it's like, I'm not that special. I just know from my experiences that I am able to do anything I need to do. And you just need to believe that in yourself. You need to know that your loved ones walk with you always. We have such a crowd around us all the time of love people that love us from the other side. We're never really alone. Grief is a locked door. Grief is a locked door, and the people that love you can't get through that until you open that door a crack. And then you start seeing a robin, and you say, my mom always loved robins. And it's middle of January. Why is there a robin inside my window? Because your mom is there, and she's showing you something out of the ordinary to get your attention, that she's there, that the hard time you're going through, you have to just talk to her. She's listening, and she will find a way to get a message to you. So we limit ourselves. Our thinking limits us, or we want to follow someone else to tell us what to do instead of being responsible for our own thoughts and our own actions. And that's a big problem for a lot of people, being self-responsible. They want to blame somebody. They don't want to take responsibility. Well, as long as you're doing that, you're going to be limited in what you can do, because you're giving everybody else around you all your power and all the authority over your life. And there's no reason to do that when you have the ability to just say, I did it. I did it. Oh, I know. When we die, we leave the physical behind. Now, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain this. In my understanding, I'll just couch it like that, because this is my understanding. I'm not going to say I'm an authority on anything. But in my understanding, we go where our belief system puts us. What do we believe will happen? If you believe you're unworthy of heaven, you're going to go to a place called hell. God didn't make it. It's not a place that you are, it's not a physical location. It's a belief system of people who feel like they're unworthy of anything better. They all kind of gather. All the energies always gather together. But if you believe if you're Catholic, then you want to go where the Catholics go. You want to go where that belief system takes you. If you believe that you're a good person, you go where good people go. It's really, there's levels and more levels and more levels than you can possibly understand. But the lowest levels, the darkest levels are anger, hate, prejudice, resentment, guilt. Guilt's the worst. Part of what I do in my sleep, I have been into those darker levels, and they to help people come out of them, to help people change their mind, to get them out of that state of mind. If you've seen the movie What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams, awesome movie, very good description of what happens after we cross, and how we have this face, this persona, this body type now, but we've had many other types, and we can be presenting ourselves to loved ones in different ways that they'll recognize. So if they might not recognize you in this form, but there'll be family there in another form that will recognize you. But we go where our beliefs take us, because everything is vibration. Everything is energetic. So the lower levels that man calls hell, which God did not create, we create by our limited beliefs, or hanging on to prejudices and judgments and hatred, hanging on to criticism and guilt. Guilt's the worst to overcome. I don't know why it's useless. All the other emotions have a purpose. I can't find one for guilt. And I believe me, I have been fighting guilt for a long time, because some religions raise you on guilt. They bottle feed you and spoon feed you till you get to be an adult, and then you pass it on to your generation. But there's no point in guilt. Whatever the guilt is, get over it. Figure it out and get over it, because it's just going to hold you up. The way to get into the other side, the highest vibrations possible, is to let go of things like anger, resentment, guilt, grief, pain, frustration. All the negative energies tie you up. They mess up this life, and they'll mess you up in the afterlife. But the good news is you get to come back and try it again. You're not stuck unless you choose to be stuck. This is the thing people understand about free will. You have choices to make all the time, and they determine the outcome of your life, how it's going to go. And every choice you make tells you what you're going to do when you get done with this life. And if you have got family relationships that need to be resolved, or any other relationship that needs to be resolved, do it before you get on your deathbed, because you need to have the time to really live your life free of those impediments, because that's all they are. And when you cross over to a peaceful, joyful, loving place if you feel you deserve it. So you really need to feel you deserve it now, and work on that now, not just leave it for the last breath. People want to put things off, just do what they want to do now in this life, live willy-nilly, and then the last minute say a confession or absolution and be done with it. It don't work that way. You have to have a constant, consistent, I should say, a consistent mindset. I am deserving of beautiful things, of loving things. I'm deserving of love, being loved and giving love. I'm deserving. I am a child of the divine. I am an unlimited love and light being. I'm going to go back to where I came from before this whole journey started, back to the highest levels I came from. I'm not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize that. It's not worth it. Okay, so that's my understanding of what happens when we die. Dying is so easy. You close your eyes and it's done. Or half the time people don't even know they're dead. They're on a battlefield, and they're still fighting the battle, but their body dropped, and they don't even realize it, because death is that easy. It's so natural for our bodies to let go and go on, for our spirits to go on. And that's just a piece of cake. Anybody who is afraid of death needs to rethink that fear. Watch NDE videos like this channel and really understand that there's so much more that we have to learn. And one of the main things is there's no reason to fear dying. Dying is a natural process, and it's an easy process. It's the easiest thing you'll ever do. Even if you're in acute pain, the minute you close your eyes and let go of the body, you'll be out of pain. There is no pain when you cross over because you don't have the physical body. You don't take that with you. You have a spirit body of love and light that's limitless, timeless, and eternal. You came from spirit, you return to spirit. And the state that you return in is up to you. That's your free will. How are you going to return what God gave you? Are you going to return it better or worse? And we want to make it better. That's my understanding.
So if are you saying if we die and we have these negative emotions where we go to like a lesser realm with I don't know, slower vibration, where
Yes,
is that like like a hell, right?
yes,
Can we can get out of there from
yes,
the other side, or
yes.
do we have to
People
come
are
back?
sick. No, people are sent in there all the time to bring people out of there into a higher vibrational level. I'm one that's been sent into hell. I'm using that word because that's what people are familiar with. It's not a place and it's not God created. Just keep that in mind. But it's the lower level vibrations. And if you have had situations that have occurred and you just can't see yourself being loving, being in a loving situation, we go in there and we try to change your mind. We try to convince you otherwise. We try to reach you where you are and turn your mind around. So, and you can be born from that space. And you can be born out from, you can get out of there two ways. We can help you out of there into a higher level of vibration, or you can be born out of there and bring all that crap in with you into this lifetime. I don't recommend that because then you have so much anger and fear and frustration starting off that this is where I think a lot of the um, most troubled individuals come from in our society. Is that they left one low energy and brought that energy in with them and started off on a very low frequency and just couldn't find their way out of it. Does
How
that make
can
sense?
it does? How can we, instead of doing it on the other side, how can we just release those lower level energies now? Because I think that's what it's difficult. I think that's what's,
Yeah.
holding people back. It's not like we understand that we have to do that. People understand that. But it's difficult. Do you have any
Well,
tips for people on how?
we make it difficult on ourselves because there's a benefit to what we're doing to ourselves. Our ego is satiated by these negative energies. Our ego is the part of our physical self, which is self preservation. We undo this now by realizing we're doing it first. I am in an angry state and I need to figure out why. So you go into meditation, you go to a therapist, you go to a counselor, you talk to your best friend, and you really want to know why. Why am I so angry all the time? Where did this start? When did this happen? And what do I need to do to get over it? You sincerely want to know, you'll find your answer. The right people will come in your path. Louise L. Hay, you can heal your life. She has all the physical symptoms in the body and all the emotional junk that caused them, that the blockage causes it. And that's how I got over a lot of my physical illnesses, was applying what she taught. And there's a lot more that's available on videos and stuff of her talking about her principles: criticism, resentment, anger. Oh, there's always one. I'm always forgetting one. Those lower energies, and that's how it is. You can let go of anything when you're no longer feeling a benefit from it. When you start to see a benefit to not having it. If you can justify not talking to your mom for 40 years because you're mad at her for something she did when you were 12, and that's benefiting you because now you have an excuse not to talk to her and deal with it. You see what I mean? We're benefiting. Find the benefit and find out that tell yourself it's not worth it. It's just not worth it. You wanna leave this body better than you found it. You want to leave your ground you're walking better than you found it. Because that's the only way that you're going to find yourself in a higher level place when you cross over, is by finding out what's holding you back. It's like a hot air balloon has all those weights on it. You gotta get rid of what's holding you down. You gotta let go of those weights and let your balloon soar. And there's 101 ways to identify it and figure it out, but it can be done. Meditation is a big one. I use that a lot. I do that to communicate with my spirit guides. Opening the Channel is another book, old, old book, Sanaya Roman. Uh, that was one of the first books I got hold of to help me understand what I was channeling. I knew I was doing it, but I didn't know what it was I was doing. That's how usually is what happens. I'll be doing something, I won't know what it's called or what I'm doing, but there it is, all of a sudden, okay, there's a book, and this book explains everything I'm going through. And so that book is good for helping you to access guides and teachers. There's 101 YouTube videos, how to access your guides and teachers and get direct communication started. You don't have to voice channel, you don't have to do anything in particular, but you do have to try. Be open to receive messages in whatever way they come, you know? And not to fear death. And not even really to overthink what happens to you after you die. Just live the best life you can now. Just do the best you can now, and that'll take care of itself. Even if you cross over at a lesser than desired place, you'll have people meet you there to help you out of that situation as well. That's what we do. There's a whole troop of people that do that. Doesn't lend for a good night's sleep, but it's beneficial, and it's a good thing. I remember going in, and when I saw Robin Williams movie, I'm like, wow, they were in my head. They really videotaped my head. How do they do that? It's so like what I recognized and what I remember doing from my sleep state. And I was like, that is pretty nifty. I highly recommend that movie to anyone who wants to understand the other side. And how he didn't even recognize his daughter at first because she presented herself differently. And how he helped his wife get out of that bad spot. And his love was so strong for her, he was going to stay there with her. He could go elsewhere, but he wasn't about to do that. He's going to stay there with her because she couldn't see her way clear of that. And it's just a beautiful movie, but it's very realistic. It makes you wonder about people who make these movies. What have they experienced? I'd like to talk to these people who wrote this movie and put this together because they did such a phenomenal job. I want to know where they've been, what they've been doing. That's kind of what I think when I see movies like that. So there's been a lot of profound understandings, aha moments, and realizations in my life in 65 years that I wouldn't change a moment. And I've had some serious situations, some significant pain and suffering, but I bounced out of it, and I'm better than I was before, and I'm able to help people better than I did before because I was able to uh, compassionately understand the blinders people willingly leave on their eyes. And then I know I have to help them open their eyes a little bit by little bit, give them a little bit more comfort, a little bit more encouragement to stand on their own, think on their own, take responsibility for their life, little steps, baby steps. And then they turn around one day and they're like, wow, it's like I just woke up. I said, I know, isn't it great? Colors are brighter, sounds are bigger. It's like everything's more beautiful when you have your head on straight. The world is a much more wonderful place. We can focus on what's wrong or we can focus on what's right. And my choice is always to focus on what I can be grateful for. I am blessed. I am blessed. Every day I've been blessed.
You have some gifts that you use to share with others to help them. Did those come with your near-death experience, or did you have them before?
Before,
Okay.
like I said, I remember being born. I didn't like my mother. And every time she picked me up, I'd cry. I remember Dad, I like Dad. And every time he picked me up, I'd shut up. Let me tell you, babies are very intuitive and they're very knowledgeable, and they have to give them more credit than their little bodies have possible. I have met, I had out of body astral travel when I was a small kid, like a toddler. My grandma was a drill press operator, and she accidentally drill pressed her thumb, put a hole right through her thumb. And she had my brother and sister, but I was at home with my mom in a nap. And I remember flying over the grapevines that she had in her backyard. I looked like a bird wings, like an airplane kind of flying shadow. And then I remember being in the house and Grandma got home from the hospital, and she took off the outer bandage to show my brother and sister who were younger. It wasn't a big deal. It's just a little bandage on her thumb now, and I can see through the bandage. I can see the hole, and I woke up screaming. And Mom was like, "What are you screaming about?" I said, "Grandma's got a hole in her thumb. You need to call Grandma now." And she called and found out, yeah, she just got home from the hospital. She had drill pressed her thumb. But now, see, in the Christian household I was raised in, you're either God or the devil, either a saint or a witch. They didn't know what to do with me. I could see things. I knew things. I could tell Mom Dad was going to come home early from work because he had a stomach ache. I don't know how I knew it. I just knew it. He comes in half an hour later. I told her to call you and let you know she needed milk. And so I would get punished for lying, making stories up that I had. And like I'm 3 years old, I could reach the phone on the wall in the kitchen to call anybody. Like I know my numbers. But they couldn't make sense of it. So I had to be lying or I had to be doing something. And they just didn't know what I was doing, how I was doing it. But the reality of the situation is I just knew that they couldn't compute that. So I had these experiences up until I was in my kindergarten, first grade year, where I was awake and aware. Then I shut that down for 18, 20 years until this near death experience reawakened everything. Reawakened my connection to my guys, reawakened my knowledge of my divinity and my eternal spirit. It was reignited a spark in me and put me back on path that I had lost. Well, I felt I had lost. I really had. I was just in a dark spot of that path. Like I came out of the dark woods into the sunlight. That's what it was like. It was beautiful.
If my viewers wanted to reach out to you, how can they find you?
Um, my email address is jamesjill170 at gmail.com. jamesjill170. And yeah, they're welcome to email. I'll be happy to share. I've been teaching up until about 5 years ago. My walls got upended and I'm kind of in my, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. I kind of went into a retirement. I haven't been doing a whole lot of classes or teaching or tarot readings, but I am back. I'm ready. This is my reinitiation back into the real world. Get my mind off of me and get back to helping people like I know to do. I'm just in a situation where I feel limited and I need to be past that. So yes, if you would like to talk more, if you like a reading, just send me an email. We'll connect.
Do you have any final words for my viewers today?
Be happy. Just be happy. My goal when I was going through all my healing crises in my 20s and 30s, I wanted peace. I had to have peace. Not the kind of peace you get from the physical stuff. I wanted deep peace. That was my guiding light. Does it bring me peace? Do I feel calm and confident, or does it upset and disturb me? If it upset me, it was no part of me. Relationships fell by the wayside. Jobs went away. I don't have a job. Okay, find me another job that gives me peace. I can live with myself. So be happy and be at peace, and don't worry about labels and qualifications because none of that stuff matters. If you're guided, say it, do it. Just know that you have to work on that guidance so you get a strong connection and be as much help as you can to your fellow man. And the nature needs us to step up and do better. But be at peace and be happy. And remember, you don't have to have a near death experience, cookie cutter near death experience. As long as you have a profound change in your attitude, in your outlook, in your life, as long as it affected you so deeply, things are never the same afterwards. There are you before the near death and the you after. That's what matters. That's what matters, not the cookie cutter experience, which is wonderful when you have them, not required, not necessary to be a near death experience. So I just bless everyone and thank them for letting me share my story, few of my stories. And I hope I've been able to give some people some peace.
I love your stories and the work that you're doing to help others is just amazing. You're remarkable. I appreciate your time and you coming on and sharing because it is very helpful for others. So thank you so much, Jill.
You're welcome. I'm very glad to be able to be here, Tia. This has been a wonderful experience for me as well.
Thank you for being here. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you being here and supporting my channel. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing if you enjoy near-death experiences and other spiritually transformative stories. It helps the algorithm know that this information is useful and push it out to more people. And that's the goal, to get as many people to know that we are eternal spiritual beings and that we never die. Our bodies might die, but our essence will never die. And I want people to live with less fear. Let's all spread the word. Like, comment, subscribe, share, hit that little notification bell so you get all the notifications when my videos post. Thank you for all of your support. I'm sending love to you.